When I think about my learning intentions, the first thing I do is think of my unit goals, and those are definitely based on my standards. So I consider what standard I need to cover in a certain period of time.
First thing I'm gonna do is really look at what content do I want in a unit, and then once I've decided what I have in that unit, then I can start breaking it down day by day. And once I have like, okay, on Monday I'm gonna teach this, then I start developing my learning intentions, saying, okay, what do I really want the students to accomplish by the end of the day? And so first I'm thinking, what are they gonna learn? How are they gonna learn it? And then who are they gonna learn it with? So that's that social intention in there. Can I get a collaborative aspect to go along with the learning intentions for that day?
I develop my daily learning intentions from my learning progressions in the unit. So the way that I establish those is by backwards planning, using that teacher clarity model of starting with the standards, bundling them in a way that makes sense, coming up with a summative assessment at the end, and visualizing what are the steps that my students need to take to get there, and then planning my daily lessons from there.
So I consider the success criteria as our step-by-step increment to accomplishing our learning goals for each day or week or unit. And the success criteria for me is how do I get from point A to Z? So again, if I'm thinking about how can I best help students to write an introductory paragraph, I know that our first step is to consider our thesis statement. So that's my goal, that's my focus of that writing.
They can be through a multiple of activities. It could be peer evaluations on talking with each other, in-class activity, whether that be individual, partner, or a group. Trying to give them some kind of form of assessment.
Something just very straightforward so they know, okay, this is what we're covering today. This is the topic, i.e. the learning intentions, and this is the goal. And then these are the things I need to be able to do by the end of the lesson to prove that I've met that goal and know what I know I learned.
I really like that question because when I first came to this school, I had that same question. So I feel like it's taken me, I've gone through that journey over the past 3 years. So I think the learning intentions are really an overarching view of what they're learning that day. It also might relate to the whole unit, whereas I feel like the success criteria are really specific actions that the students are doing to show that they're successful. So I teach math, so in math, like I can solve for X, whereas the learning intention is more broad, like I'm learning how to solve one-step equations.
Some instructional things is every day I start off my day, we have this routine where we go through the learning intentions and success criteria, not only on my whiteboard, but I also present them in the slides. And as we're going through the day, I will reference back to them and how they connect to the activity we're doing. And so that students are able to understand when should I be able to mark off the success criteria that I have gotten there.
For me, because like I said, I use a lot of writing and maybe more involved rubrics at the end of a unit, we might situate those learning intentions in that rubric. This is the part of the rubric that we're working on right now. And I say that because when we do activities in an English class, I always like to have them have the rubric right next to them for a couple of reasons. It's so they have that visual of this is what I'm working towards. It also is a nice reorienting place for them if they're kind of feeling like, what are we doing right now? How does it relate to the end goals? And also, hopefully it situates their understanding of where they're at in the learning process. So that they can see, well, what have I done so far to get to this point? Where do I still need to go in relation to that final assessment?
And so it's not just something that sits up on the board and then we cover it really quick and I say, this is what we're doing for the day, and then we don't really revisit it anymore. I take a lot of time at the beginning of each of my classes to really go through and figure out what are these learning intentions? What are you supposed to be grasping today? What is your overall goal to be able to assess your learning? So we go over things like vocabulary that's in the learning intentions.
During our distance learning, I learned how to use digital notebooks, and I found that as such a wonderful tool for helping students engage with our success criteria and learning intentions each day. Our first page of our digital notebook has our success criteria, our learning intentions broken apart, and we engage with it regularly through different links or moments where we even might cross things out or check that we have successfully met each goal. So what's really nice is this is our go-to place for everything, every class, every day. And so we're building these habits to look at the success criteria multiple times through the day to make sure that we're progressing toward our learning goals.
It gives them like a road or a guideline on every day. It tells them what they're going to be learning, how they're going to be learning, and then obviously the last piece is how they know they learned it. A great example would be at the end of every period or like frequently, I give exit tickets. So the exit ticket is based off of these success criteria for the day. So recently we did the Industrial Revolution, and one of the exit ticket was to be able to tell me at least 5 effects of the Industrial Revolution, whether they were positive or negative. If my students can do that, that 1 tells them that they've learned what I needed them to learn for the day, and then 2, it also gives me good data and feedback, and so I can progress through the lesson.
I think it starts with me. So I think that learning intentions and success criteria have really made me a better teacher because I'm just so much more transparent with my students. So it helps me become transparent with them, and then it just really gives them a guide for what they're learning that day. So it gives them a purpose, right? Why am I here? What am I learning?
When a kid walks in and they're not sure what they're learning or why they're learning and how is it relevant to them, and a lot of times they're not able to focus or streamline their attempts to be able to learn. And so when you're very clear on what your goal is for the day, what those learning intentions are, you've set out a strategic plan, kids don't come in and just look at the agenda any longer. They will look at the agenda but also then look at the learning intentions. I watch them do this consistently to try to see, okay, these are the things that we're doing today, but this is the overall goal of where we're trying to get and why we're doing these activities.
You know, they know what the learning intentions are, they know what they're supposed to learn. By the time the end of our lesson, if they feel like, okay, I did learn that, I understood that. It gives them time to self-assess whether they learned that or they didn't learn that, or like, I didn't really get the learning intentions, how to connect with the lesson. Provides me with that feedback of the teacher. I was like, okay, then maybe we need to revisit this and not, move forward right away. Or if, the class feels like they got the learning intentions, I understood that this, connected dots, this, and this, then I realized that they learned the activity.
I think any new teacher, we just need to get into the habit of remembering to focus on our standards and to analyze those standards in a way, what should students be able to know and do to achieve this standard. And I think that's the best place to start. That's the most accessible place to start. And if all else fails, conversation with another colleague can really help us to get to that place where we are comfortable sharing until we are confident enough to do them on our own.
I think learning intentions and success criteria are the heart of teacher clarity. I think without them, we don't get that opportunity to share with students what the path we're asking them to take is. I think they impact student learning in a variety of ways. The ability to self-assess, the ability to articulate what they're learning, how they're learning it, whether they learned it or not. To what degree did they learn it? I mean, all of those things, you need some sort of reference point, and I think that success criteria and learning intentions are those things.